What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share the video, and make sure you leave a comment. You know, before we get started, man, I just want to give my condolences to all the people in Texas. Can't even imagine what you're going through when, you know, you think back to all the stuff that happened in Sandy Hook, and all the details aren't out yet, but it's definitely a sad day, man. It's a sad day not only for the people in Texas, but the people in Buffalo. It's a sad day for our country altogether. It's a sad day when we live in a society where kids can't even go to school and be safe, man. Like, what is going on? It's outrageous. It's sad. And the story that I'm about to bring you today, the places that we're about to go, they're dark places. They're dangerous places. Young man, listen to me when I tell you this. This is not the place you want to be. The pictures from this gruesome incident are the most gruesome and brutal pictures I've ever seen in my life. They're shocking, to say the least. I wanted to put them up on here, on YouTube, but I know that YouTube would never allow them. I have the pictures. I've seen them. They're shocking, man. Just sad and disturbing. And we're going to take you into a penitentiary. We're going to take you into USP Terre Haute, where you might have heard Green Eyes when he came on the show, Jason Durgan. He talked about how he seen that man getting his head jumped on. USP Terre Haute was a very dangerous place. Today it's a different place, because when prisons get crazy and they get violent, sometimes the BOP steps in, and what they do is they change the mission statement. Get the attention off of this place and send all these people over to that prison, and now that prison has all the scrutiny. And when it gets crazy, they change the mission statement over there, and they send all these cats over there. But these are some of the most brutal dudes, one of the most brutal stories that you'll probably ever hear about federal prison. And I mean that. And I want you to just think about it. As we get into this, think about it. Think about what your life is worth. Think about if this is the road you want to be on. You ever been scared before? I can tell you that federal prison is a scary place. It's a scary place. You hear people say all the time, man, I'm all good, man. My paperwork's good. I'm this, I'm that. You can be all the way good and still end up dead in federal prison, and that's a promise. Because everybody in there isn't good. Everybody in there isn't a good guy. You could very easily be around some of the most dangerous people in the country. People that don't care about you. People that have no remorse. People that don't care if you have a mother or a son or a daughter. But you know what? Let's get into it. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Come with me on this journey. Why have you taken my life? You had no remorse and blamed me for something I did not do. I was a son, a brother, a father, a person who did not deserve to die in such a heinous way. You decided that my mother should bury me for the sins that you committed. I am Rocky Halsey, crying out from the grave. I was 49 years old when you decided to take my life. You and your friend decided it was time for me to leave my blood on the razor wire. I was serving a sentence of 296 months, or 23 years in federal prison. The court sentenced me for possession with intent to distribute meth and some marijuana. The judge did not sentence me to death, but you did, Timothy McAllister. I had a release date, and you took it. It was a day that I dreamed of, a day that I thought would be the day when I would have a second chance to reclaim my life. Sometimes I would lay in my bed at night and dream of the days that I would be back in California and able to walk in the warm sun. I dreamed of getting out and putting my life together. I wanted to live my best life, but you decided that my life would end here in USP Terre Haute on August 10th, 2005. You decided that I should die in a brutal and violent way, a way that most people could never imagine. You decided that I would die in Indiana, in the Midwest, in some lonely place. You and your friend who you knew nothing about, Jeremy Sneed. But see, Sneed was nothing that he portrayed. And you know that now. But you didn't know that then. But now you do. But we'll talk about him later. I really never understood how violent the Federal Bureau of Prisons was. Like you, I heard the same stories that you likely heard. That the feds was like Camp Fed. But when I got here, none of that was true. I never involved myself with prison gangs or disruptive groups. There was nothing in my file to say that I was. And you, my friend, were only 32 years old when this all began. When you decided to do what Troy Kell once called fucking your life off. You turned 19 years into a life sentence. Your 19-year sentence became your destiny. And mine too. Your release date was just less than 11 years away. I wondered as I lay there dying, I looked up into your eyes and seen the anger, the hatred, the animosity. But I wondered in that moment if you once dreamed of that day like I did. What day? Come on, Timmy. You know what day. July 1st, 2016. The day that you were scheduled to be released. And now we're here. May 25th, 2022. You would have been home many years ago. But you decided that federal prison would be your fate. Did you dream that at 41 you would be released from prison and able to walk on the sands of beaches? Did you ever dream that you might be a father to your children someday? Or perhaps that you might get married? Did you ever dream that your mother would have a son that she could count on in her old age? Perhaps you did. But you threw it all away. Now you're prisoner 02659. 087, and you're sitting in USP Pollock, where violence surrounds you. All your hopes, dreams, and desires have shattered like broken glass. There will be no walks in the warm sun, no sand between your toes, or mine for that matter. Getting married and having a second chance to reclaim our lives all disappeared on that warm, fateful day. I remember it like yesterday. It was a hot August day. I had came in from the yard sweating a little bit. This Midwest air hits you differently sometimes. The smell of fresh-cut grass sometimes took me back to my youth. Thoughts of a baseball diamond. You know, those little league games that you might have been a part of back then. The days when our parents probably never imagined that we would ever be here, in the great state of Indiana, where our lives would collide and change forever. Did she ever imagine, your mother, that the Federal Bureau of Prisons would have documents that would read like a gang book? Quote unquote, Inmate McAllister does have a security threat group assignment of Folks Association and a management interest intel group of Aryan Circle. Were you part of the Aryan Circle? I was never sure about that, but always wondered. And what about Jeremy Sneed, your partner in crime, the man who tricked you? He was already serving life in prison for travel in interstate commerce and use of interstate commerce facility with intent to commit murder for hire. But little did you know, the reasons that you felt you wanted to kill me for, well, one of the reasons fit Jeremy like a puzzle. Rodney Bershevsky hired him to kill his in-laws in 1996 at the state fair. He was a young man bent on destruction. Where all of this came from, I do not know. After this gruesome crime, he went on the run with no compassion, nor any guilt. For 19 days, he crisscrossed the country, trying to stay one step ahead of the law. He blew through the bag full of cash he'd stolen from the motorhome parked at the Iowa State Fair. The money bought him all the things he wanted: tattoos, booze, drugs, and prostitutes. From New York to Seattle, and then to Miami. But he was tired of running. Perhaps his conscience was catching up with him as well, reminding him of what he'd done in that cramped motorhome. And he was having doubts about the story he was told that helped persuade him to carry out the crime. Besides, he knew it was only a matter of time before law officers hunted him down. So on Saturday, August 31st, 1996, Jeremy left his oceanfront hotel room in Miami South Beach. He walked to a payphone, and he dialed Dade County Police. "I think I'm wanted for something in Iowa," he told them. Then he sat on a curb, and he waited. And he waited some more. But see, Jeremy had always been in some sort of trouble, it seemed. He was raised in Nebraska as a Jehovah's Witness. He was expected to witness with his family as they knocked on doors and preached. But that made him uncomfortable. Once he got a black eye in a school fight, and his parents kept him home. So at times I'd do things on purpose to get in trouble so I could stay home, he said. When Jeremy was 9, something really bad happened to him by a friend from the church, he said. Perhaps this is why he became so violent. Was this his way of healing by hurting others? He kept getting into fights until at the age of 15, he was placed in a foster home. For the next 7 years, he was in and out of jail for a laundry list of crimes. Marijuana possession, firearm theft, evidence tampering. He was a career criminal at a young age. But each time he was caught, he accepted the consequences of what he had done. In the summer of 1996, he was only 22 and living in Kansas City, Missouri, when his friend Timothy Heaton invited him to visit. And this is when everything went bad for him. Did you know who your partner really was? Not only was he a demon, but he did what you and your friends say you hate. He testified and he cooperated. But yet now he wanted to kill me for the same allegations that he actually did? He hid it all from you, McAllister. Oh, Timmy, he wasn't truthful. And you didn't check that paperwork. That trip to Tim's house set him on a course that would send him to prison for the rest of his life. The same day Jeremy arrived at Heaton's home in southwest Missouri, he had met Rodney Brashowski, the son-in-law of Bobby and Marilyn Bluer, longtime concierge at the Iowa State Fair. Jeremy told Dade County detectives after turning himself in all about the crime. During that first meeting at Heaton's house, Jeremy told police Rodney made a startling statement. He wished his in-laws were no longer here. At first, I thought he was joking, Jeremy said. Rodney told him that Bobby had done something bad to Rodney's wife, Jamie, when she was young, and their 4-year-old son, Gunnar. Rodney ridiculed the Bluers' 2 other children, Bay and Jada, as idiots who received favored treatment in comparison with his wife. He also said the Bluers' property, life insurance, and concession businesses were worth more than $500,000. Later that night, Jeremy and Heaton visited Rodney and Jamie at their trailer home on 120 acres that the Bluers owned, near Granbury, Missouri. Rodney, with an earshot of his wife, again brought up killing the Bluers. Jeremy became intrigued after he was told he would be paid $30,000. He was willing to give his life away for $30,000. Timmy. That should say a lot about his character, shouldn't it? Also, it struck a nerve with me as far as him accusing Bob of doing bad things to Jamie and Gunnar, he told the detectives. Jamie would later say neither she nor her son were touched by Bobby. Jeremy soon moved into the Bershke's trailer home, and talk continued about killing Bobby and Marilyn, as well as Bo and Jada. At the first step in their scheme, Rodney suggested that Bobby and Marilyn hire Jeremy to work at their funnel cake stand. The initial plan was for Jeremy to kill Bobby, Marilyn, Bo, and Jada in Davenport during the Mississippi Valley Fair, but he just couldn't do it, he said. Rodney called me several times and wondered why it hadn't happened yet, Jeremy told the Dade County detectives. He was getting a little irritated, and then a new plan was made. On Thursday, August 8th, the state fair's opening day. Jeremy back then, Timmy, was just a lanky 22-year-old with short-cropped hair, body piercings, and tattoos. He arrived and wandered for several hours before heading to the Bluers' motorhome in the fairgrounds parking lot. On Sunday, Rodney telephoned Jeremy. He said if I didn't get it done that night, he was going to call the police and reveal the plan, Jeremy told the detectives. I said, okay, I'll take care of it tonight. I still couldn't do it that night. The next morning, Jeremy woke up and found himself alone in the motorhome with Bobby and Marilyn. The three made small talk. Sometime after 10:30 a.m., Marilyn sat down at the dining table to have a cup of coffee. I had gotten up to use the restroom, Jeremy told the police. When I walked by Bob, he just irritated me. I decided I'd just take care of it now. Jeremy got a .380 caliber handgun out of his bag. Bobby asked him where he got it from, and Jeremy told him he paid someone in Kansas City a light $25 for it. Also in his bag was a .22 caliber revolver that Jeremy had taken from the Bluers' home in Missouri. And then Jeremy decided it was time. He turned to Bobby. He told the police, I said, can you do me a favor? What's that? Can you get on your knees and open up the safe, Jeremy said. And that's when I pulled the other gun out and pointed it toward Marilyn. I told her to sit down, Shh. Don't say a word. Keep her hands on the table. I told her nobody would get hurt if they just followed my instructions. The Bluers told Jeremy they had trusted him and that if he took all the money, they'd lose their farm and house. I lied to them and told them I'm not going to take it all. I just need some money, Jeremy said to the police. Bob opened the safe up and got about $22,000 out. Jeremy told him to set aside $10,000. Jeremy told Bobby to put duct tape over his wife's mouth and around her head. I told him to make sure she could still breathe, Jeremy said. He gave Bobby some rope and told him to tie his wife's hands together. Then he told Marilyn to keep her hands on the table so he could see them. I was nervous, Jeremy said. He had been told that Bobby had guns on the bus, but didn't know where they were. Jeremy told Bobby to stand up, covered his mouth with duct tape, and then told him to lie in the aisle. I taped up his hands, Jeremy told the cops. The Bluers were trying to talk, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. I was trying to ignore them. When he reached for a pillow, Marilyn realized what he was about to do, and she jumped up. At least that's Jeremy's story. And that's when he shot her. I used the .380, although I was wanting to use the other one, actually, because it wouldn't have left shell casings. The first time I shot her, I couldn't hear. I was kind of spaced out. It just happened. She just jumped up, and I just shot her, he told the police on tape. Within a split second, I reached down and shot Bob in the back of the head. Jeremy said Marilyn was crying as she lay on the floor with the gunshot wound in her chest. I noticed Marilyn wasn't dead yet, so I shot her in the forehead. He wiped off the .22 caliber handgun and left it on a chair, but took the .380. He scooped up the money, put it in his bag, found the keys to Bo's truck, and hurried out the door. Jeremy left the fairgrounds and drove for about 30 minutes. He parked the truck, walked to a convenience store near Southeast 5th Street, an Army Post Road, and then he called for a taxi. As Jeremy waited, he went into a restroom, emptied the bullets from a handgun, washed his face in his hands. Are you listening to me, Timmy? Can you hear my voice in your sleep? Do I come to you in dreams? Do I ever rack your brain? I could still smell the gunpowder, Jeremy said. For days I could smell it. The taxi took Jeremy to the Greyhound bus station, where he bought a ticket to Joplin, Missouri, using the name Jeremy Smith. He got off the bus in Kansas City and got a taxi to a house near Odessa, where he was supposed to meet Rodney and split up the money. I messed around there a little bit, and then Rodney called that night and told me the police were looking for me, Jeremy said. He said he would be down the next day and I was going to give him $6,000 to $7,000. When Rodney arrived, he drove Jeremy toward Warrensburg, Missouri, where he was going to get on another bus. Rodney and Jeremy didn't want to be seen together, so Rodney dropped him off on a rural road. As Jeremy walked, he disassembled the gun and threw pieces of it into a nearby field. He shredded his Missouri Department of Corrections identification card, scattering pieces along a ditch. But why? He was going to tell law enforcement everything that he had done. He was going to tell them everything about everybody and everyone that was involved. When he was in New York, he paid $500 to get his Swazi and spiderweb tattoos covered up. When most of the money was gone, that's when he called the cops. And he waited for an hour, growing impatient with each waiting moment. As he debated fleeing, a police car pulled up. If you guys would have come 5 minutes later, I would have changed my mind, he told the detectives questioning him. Timmy, what did your good friend Jeremy do? He did what you say you hate. He laid out the murder plot in intricate detail. He also fingered Rodney as a mastermind of the scheme. After sitting in jail, the man you took my life with had penned a letter to a federal prosecutor in Des Moines in search of a plea deal. The prospect of a life sentence in state prison weighed heavily on him. He wanted to serve his time in a federal prison, where he believed the food would be better and the libraries more suited to his voracious reading habit. He was really smart, and once he knew he was in trouble, he tried to get the best place to serve his time. To get the deal, Jeremy offered information and willingness to testify. Prosecutors told him they needed hard evidence that would prove Jamie, the woman involved, helped plan her parents' murder. Jeremy testified, and in the end, both husband and wife ended up with life. Jeremy got his life sentence as well in a federal prison. He joined in with the gossip and with the in crowd, the white car and the white politics, all while hiding the truth from you and your friends. It was 4:43 p.m. when you walked into my cell in E1. Cell 112, and little did I know that the end for me was... By 4:46, the door swung open as I fought for my life inside this federal penitentiary. Me and you, and me and Jeremy. You had already stabbed me numerous times. I felt my life flash before me. While I swung back, images of my family went through my mind like a slideshow. I seen myself when I was a little boy, again when I was handcuffed, and again I seen the first day I walked into this prison. It was in that moment, Tim, that I knew that this was it. I knew that I was going to die. It was inevitable. There was no way to avoid it. We are now in front of cell 108, and I cry out in fear of what my reality is becoming. The cop hits the deuces. He surprises me when he tries to save me, but you in your anger have become a savage. The cop pulls you off me, Tim, and perhaps I have a chance. Perhaps my life will not end here. You drop your weapon, but I am bleeding profusely. There is a hole in my chest a foot long. It looks like something a lion does to a zebra, but we are not lions and zebras, or are we in this very moment? Hard to believe that this gaping hole is here, but I am looking at it. How can I survive this? I panic, and I weep from inside. Jeremy is on me now. I'm like a wounded animal. He is like your proud son trying to please you while he has hidden his sins from you. The cop pulls him off of me, but it does little because you are back. You, Timothy McAllister, are bent on crucifying me in the most savage way. You're stabbing me again. I've seen you pick up the shank, and I could do nothing. The wounds in my neck, my chest, and about my body have frozen me in time. Jeremy is cuffed up now. I see him still. And the cop is back pulling you off me a second time. It is happening so fast I can hardly think. My vision is becoming blurry, but I know my end is near. The cop has you restrained, and now Jeremy is back handcuffed. I see him, but I'm fading fast. He's handcuffed behind his back, but the vulgarity of his violence allows him to kick me in the head one last time. You're laying on the ground cuffed now, and I can hear you. Your words sound distant. Maybe it is because I am slowly fading out. We here at Terre Haute know how to do it right. Hell yeah. Those were the last words that my ears will probably ever hear. And I know it. At 4:47, just 4 minutes in, the cops are finally here. It took you only 4 minutes to take my life. It took my mother 9 months of carrying me before I was born. But you took my life in such a small amount of time. Finally, they put me on a stretcher, and I think I can hear again. I hear them all too famous words. Lock in! The same words that I had heard many times when other people were on this side. The side of taking their last breaths. My breathing is slowly going away. Medical staff are putting a towel on my neck and applying pressure. I feel like I am no longer part of me. It is almost as if I am looking down at myself on the gurney. Perhaps I am, Tim. It is 4:53 and the lieutenant calls for an ambulance. Sorry, Lieutenant. I'm checking out. Too late for the ambulance, but thanks for trying. It's 5:08, and they pull in, sirens blaring. At 5:15, I take one of my last rides as the ambulance finally departs the facility. At 5:30, they make it official and cancel my bid. It's all over now. Kind of like that Carlito's Way movie. It's all over now. The Vigo County coroner pronounced me dead at 5:30 p.m. at the hands of you. The two of you stabbed me so many times, no reason to count them, right? I am dead now. No more prison. The chaplain did what they always do in these situations. He called my mother on August 11, 2005, and told my mother I was no longer here. He simply told her that I had passed away, all alone in the morgue, brutally assaulted, in a way that we might think is humanly impossible. This is federal prison. This is the life we live. A revolving door of brutal violence, and it never gets any better. You were proud of what you had done to me. The memorandums wrote that day say it all. You voluntarily said, quote unquote, it took me 8 fucking years, but I finally got him. That motherfucker and his partners burned and cut me, and now I got his ass. You were referring to that incident at USP Lompoc on July 8, 1998, where reports say you were assaulted by Casey Rodriguez and Eddie Reed with a weapon and a hot liquid substance. There was no documentation placing me at this assault. It was not me, my friend. Whether you really believe that or not is anyone's guess. Or was this your way of making yourself feel better? Because I was friends with Casey and Eddie? I was there at USP Lompoc at this time, but was not involved in what happened to you. You even told the lieutenant the same thing. The report says inmate McAllister was reported to have said that this incident was related to something that happened 8 years ago, when inmate Halsey and his buddies stabbed and set him on fire. I did not stab you. I did not set you on fire. My sins were that I was friends with Casey and Eddie, and you decided because I was their friends that you would take my life. The crazy thing is this: we all have mothers. In fact, Jeremy wrote his mother once he got down to the chute. It is in the discovery. Did you read it? I'm sure you did, prior to you pleading guilty to my murder. And why did you plead guilty? Were you afraid? Were you a coward at the end? Afraid that the government would strap you to a chair and take your life? Not even close to how you had taken mine. But Jeremy's letter, he writes his mother, it says, I've been dreading this letter for a few days, and I'm not sure exactly what to tell you. A guy was killed here last week, and I'm locked up for it. I can't say much more, Mother, right now, because I don't know what they are going to do with the charges and all that. I'll understand if you are mad at me. There's nothing I can do about that. I've got to go for now. Hopefully I'll still hear from you. Does this guy really have a conscience? Does he fear anything except for death itself? Is that why he too pled guilty? Or did he fear other prisoners who were soon to find out about him? Is that why he ended up in a special needs yard? I don't know, Timmy. But like I said, do I ever come into your dreams? Do you ever think about my mother? That my mother had to bury me? Do you ever look at the pictures? I received several deep lacerations to my head, neck, and abdomen area. You continued to stab me when I was already done. One laceration began nearly in the center of my neck area, by my spine. The laceration continued around the left side of my neck and continued across the front of my neck, nearly to my shoulder. I also received a deep laceration on my left cheek near my bottom lip, which made rescue breathing nearly impossible during the performance of basic life support measures. There was no way that they could save me, Tim. What about the 2 very deep lacerations in my abdomen? You just kept stabbing me, bro. Do you have any remorse? Me and you had a release date, but now we both will die in prison. You and your partner both copped out to life. Life in prison. What were our lives really meant to be? Was it meant for us to hate and kill each other in a prison? To live in a cage for the rest of your life? Was it meant for us to never taste freedom? You made the decision, not me. Today you sit in USP Pollock, and I wonder if you contemplate what happened in your life. I wonder if you think about how you fucked your life off, and mine, while you were at it. You and I know the truth. You know whether or not, if what you did was really based on fact and fiction. Fact or fiction. But it's all over now, Timmy. Nothing left but the crying for so many. I wonder if you cry at night when you're all alone. Do you, Tim? Do you cry from frustration knowing that you will never leave here a free man? What keeps you going? I have so many unanswered questions for you and for Jeremy. You, my friend, goodbye. Perhaps I'll show up in a dream or two. Perhaps someday you'll ask for forgiveness. My name is Rocky Halsey. My life ended in a USP prison. These places are filled with anger, hatred, loneliness, and desperation. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would die in such a place. In the Midwest, where the heat is sticky and all you can smell is hay. Even though I had seen it happen to others, I never thought that this would be my fate. Things like that would never happen to me, or so I thought. I have been gone now for over 17 years. Today, had I not died at USP Terre Haute, I might have been out here living my best life. Instead, my bones lay lonely in a grave that rarely gets any visitors. I do not want your mother to get that call that my mother had to take. A mother should never have to bury a son or a daughter. Life was not designed that way. It is up to you whether she does or not. Don't gamble with your life. Life is precious. My life is forever gone. My blood, like so many others, left on the razor wire.